I know. I know you're tired of hearing this. I'm tired of saying it. We have been living through one of the most relentless, punishing stretches of severe weather this country has seen in years. Week after week after week. Tornado after tornado. Hailstorm after hailstorm. Squall line after squall line. An EF4 tornado ripping through Enid, Oklahoma just 2 nights ago. 40 homes destroyed, residents trapped under debris, 175 MEP winds on the ground for over 30 minutes, and somehow, miraculously, nobody died. And right now, today, there is still an active enhanced risk for severe weather across Kansas and Oklahoma as the storm system that's been driving all of this keeps grinding east. And I am standing here today, on Saturday, April 25th, 2026, to tell you that it is not done. Not even close. The Weather Prediction Center released their extended forecast discussion just yesterday afternoon, and what they wrote was direct and unambiguous. An active pattern continues across the country next week, beginning with a strengthening low pressure system set to bring heavy rain and severe weather across portions of the Mississippi Valley on Monday. As the main low pushes across the Great Lakes, the trailing cold front will press across the east Tuesday into Wednesday. The southern portion of that front will sag into the southeastern U.S. before stalling out, supporting numerous showers and storms and potentially another heavy rain risk Monday. Then Tuesday into Wednesday. Then the front stalls and reloads across the southeast. That is not one event. That is a sequence. Again. And the communities in the Mid-South and Dixie Alley who have been watching the plains get hammered for weeks, who maybe thought this wasn't their fight, need to understand right now that the storm track has shifted. It is coming for them. And based on the data I'm looking at this morning, the setup for Monday in particular is one of the most alarming I've seen flagged this far in advance all season. Let's break it all down. Before I walk you through the coming week, I need to say something about the psychological reality of what this country is facing right now. Because I think it matters, and I think it directly affects public safety. Alarm fatigue is real. It is a documented psychological phenomenon. When people are exposed to repeated warnings, repeated emergencies, repeated urgent calls to action, over and over across days and weeks, the human brain begins to discount them. Not because people are careless or unintelligent, but because the brain is wired to normalize recurring stimuli. The warning that should feel urgent starts to feel like background noise. The NWS Chicago office has outlooked at least part of their forecast area for severe weather on 15 separate days so far in 2026, including an unusual number of days at a level 3 enhanced risk or higher. The average number of days from January 1st through April 30th, with at least one report of severe weather, is around 4. We've already hit 15. 15 severe weather days through April in an area that averages 4 for the entire first 4 months of the year. And that's just one NWS office. This pattern has repeated itself across the entire central U.S. The people of Kansas City and Des Moines and Springfield and St. Louis and Chicago have been living inside a near-continuous severe weather season since January. Communities in Oklahoma and Kansas have been hit multiple times. And now, as the storm track rotates southeast, the Mid-South is stepping into the crosshairs for the first time this season, which means those communities don't have the same battle-hardened, hyper-vigilant posture that a place like Wichita or Oklahoma City has built up through weeks of repeated events. And here's the single most dangerous thing about alarm fatigue. It peaks right before a major event. History has shown us this over and over. The communities hardest hit by catastrophic tornado outbreaks are often not the communities that are completely unaware. They're communities that received warning after warning during the preceding weeks, began to feel that warnings weren't translating into catastrophic outcomes, and then dropped their guard at precisely the wrong moment. I'm not going to let that happen on this channel. Not this week. Because the data for Monday, April 27th, and for the broader week ahead, is serious enough that it demands I say this clearly one more time. The atmosphere is not done with us, and the places that are going to feel it next deserve the same urgency I've been bringing to this all month. Let me get you current on what is happening right now, because today is not quiet either. The WPC's short-range forecast confirms an enhanced risk, level 3 of 5, of severe thunderstorms over parts of the southern plains and adjacent lower Mississippi Valley today, Saturday, April 25th. Showers and thunderstorms are developing along and ahead of a boundary from the upper and middle Mississippi Valley to the central plains, with severe thunderstorms expected over parts of the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley. More than 3 million people are under a level 3 enhanced risk threat for severe storms today, with areas including Oklahoma City and Tulsa in Oklahoma and Wichita, Kansas. Large hail, isolated tornadoes, and damaging wind gusts are all possible. As the storms continue into the evening, forecasters expect them to develop into a line of storms, a quasi-linear convective system. The strongest supercells today are expected to produce baseball-sized hail or larger. Baseball-sized hail. Let me put that in terms everyone understands. A baseball is 2. 9 inches in diameter and weighs 5 to 5, 25 ounces. When a hailstone that size falls from a supercell thunderstorm at terminal velocity, which can exceed 100 miles per hour for large hail, it shatters windshields, punches holes in roofs, strips siding off houses, and hospitalizes people caught outside. And today, that size hail is not just possible, it's in the forecast. The SPC Outlook notes a concerning high degree of instability. Over 3,000 joules per kilogram of ML Cape will exist near and east of the dry line late this afternoon. Wind profiles will support intense supercells capable of large to very large hail, along with a tornado risk. With time, some clustering may occur with an increased damaging wind threat as convection spreads east-southeastward. 3,000 joules per kilogram. On a Saturday afternoon when many people are outside, at sporting events, at cookouts and parks, please keep one eye on the radar today if you are in Kansas, Oklahoma, or the Arklatex region. This is a daylight severe weather threat, which is somewhat more manageable than overnight events, but only if people are paying attention. Sunday carries its own severe weather risk. The outlook shows a 30% any severe probability for Sunday, April 26th. But the more important story about Sunday is not what it does on its own, it's what it does to Monday. The forecast gets trickier starting Sunday. There's lower confidence in storms being able to form, but any that do could be very dangerous. Sunday and Monday have the potential to be the most potent days of this entire stretch. And here's the atmospheric mechanic that makes this so important to understand. Sunday's storm activity acts like a pressure valve on Monday's setup. The forecast for Monday hinges on key details. Specifically what happens Sunday. If severe storms are not widespread across the plains on Sunday, then more moisture and instability will be able to stream into the Mississippi Valley, potentially supporting a higher-end severe storm event Monday. This is something professional meteorologists watch extremely closely as a multi-day sequence evolves. Each day of storm activity partially consumes the available atmospheric fuel, the moisture, the instability, the energy. If Sunday produces widespread storms that eat through a significant portion of that fuel, Monday's setup weakens somewhat. But if Sunday's activity stays limited, if the cap holds stronger than expected, if storms fail to fully develop, then Monday inherits the full, untouched reservoir of moisture and instability sitting over the Mississippi Valley. And what's sitting over the Mississippi Valley right now is extraordinary. I want to talk to you about a number, a single number. Because when I saw it this week, it stopped me in my tracks in a way that very few forecast signals do. The CSU Machine Learning Severe Probability Forecast, issued April 24th, places the maximum severe weather probability for Monday, April 27th at 62. 1%, concentrated across a corridor centered on Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, and Mississippi. At 4 days out, a maximum probability of 0. 621 is an exceptionally rare and serious signal that forecasters describe as one of the highest probability signals possible at the 4-day forecast range. Forecasters are describing Monday's pattern as a screaming classic tornado outbreak, language reserved for setups where multiple atmospheric ingredients align with exceptional strength and clarity. A screaming classic tornado outbreak. That is the actual language being used by forecasters looking at this setup, not my language, theirs. 62. 1% severe weather probability at day 4. For context, this is not the same as a 62% chance of rain. This is a machine learning model trained on decades of historical outbreak data, analyzing the full atmospheric sounding profile and producing a probability that the environment on Monday will support a major, widespread severe weather event. At the 4-day range, numbers above 50% are extraordinarily rare. 62. 1% is the kind of number that makes an experienced meteorologist send an urgent communication to their colleagues. The WPC confirms this, writing that a potent negatively tilted shortwave ejecting out of the Central Rockies and across the Central Plains and Upper Midwest will support the rapid strengthening of a surface low pressure system on Monday. Flow around the low will draw anomalous moisture and instability northward from the Gulf, setting the stage for numerous showers and thunderstorms across the Mississippi Valley Monday afternoon and evening, with the potential for heavy rain and severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted the mid-Mississippi Valley as having the greatest threat from thunderstorms that could produce damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes, a negatively tilted shortwave. That is a specific upper-level pattern that is one of the most reliable predictors of explosive severe weather development. When the shortwave trough is negatively tilted, angled from southwest to northeast, it dramatically enhances the atmospheric dynamics that force storms upward and sustain their rotation. It is, in the simplest possible terms, exactly the kind of upper-level setup you do not want to see on a day when the low-level atmosphere is loaded with Gulf moisture and instability. And on Monday, that's exactly what the models are showing. 2 major atmospheric ingredients are converging on Monday. Low-pressure tracking over the Corn Belt and Upper Midwest is actively pulling warm, humid air northward, loading the region with moderate to high levels of atmospheric instability, the raw fuel that powers severe thunderstorms. At the same time, the subtropical jet stream will be roaring overhead, delivering powerful wind shear across the region. As thunderstorms grow tall and interact with these rapidly changing winds with height, they begin to rotate, a process that transforms ordinary storms into tornado-producing supercells. A significant EF2 or stronger tornado threat is considered likely for Monday across a corridor covering eastern Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, western Tennessee, southeast Missouri, Illinois, southern Indiana, and western Kentucky. Residents across this region are directly in the path of this system and should begin monitoring forecasts closely. EF2 or stronger considered likely for Monday. The Monday risk area stretches from Pine Bluff, Greenville, and Clarksdale in the west through Memphis, Dyersburg, and Paducah northward to Evansville and Jackson, Missouri, and eastward through Nashville, Murfreesboro, Clarksville, Florence, Huntsville, Gadsden, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Montgomery. The southern boundary extends through Jackson, Mississippi, Meridian, Laurel, and Hattiesburg down toward the Louisiana border. I want you to look at that list of cities. Really look at it. Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, Montgomery, Jackson, Mississippi, Paducah, Evansville. This is not a rural farming region with scattered homesteads and open fields. These are major metropolitan areas, cities, with millions of people, in the heart of a region that the data tells us is one of the deadliest tornado corridors on the planet. I have talked in previous videos about why Dixie Alley is different from Tornado Alley, but I want to say it again today in this context because I genuinely believe it is the most important thing I can communicate to the people living in Monday's threat zone. The southeastern states have had more tornado-related deaths than any of the plain states, excluding Texas. This is partly due to the relatively high numbers of strong to violent long-track tornadoes. Between 1950 and 2006, Alabama was tied with Kansas for the largest number of F5 tornadoes. Tornadoes in this region are often difficult to see. They are more likely to be rain-wrapped, embedded in shafts of heavy rain, and obscured by hilly topography and heavily forested landscape. Because significant tornadoes in Dixie Alley tend to occur earlier in the year. When there are fewer daylight hours, they are more likely to occur at night. Dixie Alley's instability can be maintained long after sunset due to proximity to the Gulf, increasing the frequency of intense nighttime and early morning tornadoes. There is also a less focused tornado season, which can lead to complacency among residents. The region often is subject to tornadoes much earlier than the general national peak, which can catch residents off guard. The southern United States also has the highest percentage of manufactured homes in the U.S. The risk of death in such homes from tornadoes is 15 to 20 times higher than in permanent homes because they are more easily destroyed. Permanent homes in the southeast also tend to have weaker frames than in other tornado-forming regions. 15 to 20 times higher risk of death in a manufactured home versus a permanent structure. That is not a small statistical footnote. That is the single most important safety fact I can share with anyone living in a mobile home or manufactured housing unit anywhere in the Monday risk zone. If you live in one, anywhere in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, western Kentucky, or southern Illinois, and you do not have a solid structure shelter identified before Monday night, that is the one thing above all others that needs to change this weekend. Dixie Alley has experienced unusually low severe weather activity through the early part of 2026. When a historically active region goes quiet for an extended period and then faces multiple rounds of significant forcing, the risk of impactful and potentially deadly events increases. Nighttime tornado risk should be anticipated across the Deep South, given the region's typical severe weather patterns. The quiet is ending. And the communities in this region who have been watching the Midwest get hammered all spring, who have perhaps felt a subconscious sense that somehow the atmosphere was leaving them alone this year, need to understand that the protection of the ridge that kept them safe is breaking down. The storm track has arrived, and it is arriving with a 1% severe probability signal and language from professional forecasters, describing Monday as a screaming classic tornado outbreak. Now I need to tell you about what happens after Monday, because this is the returning again part of the title, and the week ahead of us does not offer the kind of clean break that people are desperately hoping for. After Monday's system pushes through the Mississippi Valley, the main low-pressure center moves across the Great Lakes into southern Canada. The trailing cold front presses across the east Tuesday into Wednesday, bringing varying rain chances there. But the southern portion of the front will sag into the southeastern U.S. before stalling out, supporting numerous showers and storms and potentially another heavy rain risk. The front stalls. When a cold front stalls over the southeastern U.S. in late April, with Gulf moisture streaming northward underneath it and a jet stream overhead, it creates exactly the kind of persistent, repeating convective pattern that produces training thunderstorms, storm after storm forming along the same boundary and tracking over the same communities. the kind of setup that turns a moderate rain event into a catastrophic flash flooding situation. The Climate Prediction Center's probabilistic hazards outlook confirms this, noting that ensemble solutions show a shortwave trough moving toward the Great Lakes by the outset of the Week 2 period, with an accompanying surface, low pressure, and trailing cold front. Models generally show this frontal boundary moving southward through the southern Great Plains, parts of the Mississippi and Tennessee valleys, and adjacent sections of the southern and eastern U.S. These features are expected to coincide with moderate southerly flow, and the combination supports a slight risk of heavy precipitation in portions of the South April 28th through 30. And then, layered on top of all of this, something else entirely is building. Something that affects an entirely different set of communities in an entirely different way. The CPC has posted a slight risk of much below normal temperatures from portions of the Central Plains eastward through the lower Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and northern Mid-Atlantic for Thursday through Sunday, April 30th through May 3rd. Temperature anomalies of -10 to -20 degrees Fahrenheit are possible at times from the plains through the Appalachians and Northeast. -10 to -20 degrees below normal. For the final days of April and first days of May, right after an April that has been running dramatically above normal temperatures across the central and eastern U.S., this cold surge is going to arrive like a slap in the face for anyone who has planted a garden, for any fruit orchard that has bloomed weeks early, for any farmer who put crops in the ground during the warm stretch of mid-April. Given the absolute temperatures forecast, hazardous conditions will be limited to areas at risk of a frost or hard freeze that have early spring blooming due to the warm April. The combination of dry and breezy conditions over parts of the central and eastern U.S., where there is antecedent dryness, significantly increases the risk of wildfire activity, which could spread rapidly. So here's the full picture of the next 8 days. Monday brings a potentially historic severe weather outbreak across the Mid-South and Dixie Alley with a 62, 1% probability signal and language like screaming classic tornado outbreak from professional forecasters. Tuesday into Wednesday, the front pushes east and stalls, bringing repeated rain and potential flash flooding across the southeast. Thursday through Sunday, a cold air surge with anomalies of 10 to 20 degrees below normal sweeps the central and eastern U.S., threatening hard freezes for early season gardens and crops. And woven through all of it, elevated wildfire risk on the dry and breezy western side of each successive system. This is not a one-event week. This is not even a two-event week. This is a week that keeps returning to the well, keeps reloading, keeps finding new ways to impact new communities in new parts of the country, and it is happening on top of a spring that has already been one of the most active in recent memory. I want to step back one more time and give you the truly big picture, because I think people deserve to understand not just the next 7 days, but the next several weeks. Because here's a fact that I do not think is getting enough attention in the national weather coverage right now. May averages 275 to 294 tornadoes nationally, more than March and April combined. The single most active week in U.S. tornado history is May 19th through 26th, accounting for about 6% of all tornado reports ever recorded. We are at the end of April. We have just lived through one of the most active April stretches in recent history, with over 501 confirmed tornadoes through April 23rd alone, nearly 100 above the long-term average pace. And we are about to enter the single most active month of the year for severe weather in the United States. AccuWeather's forecast puts May's activity centered on the traditional Tornado Alley corridor, central Texas to eastern Nebraska, where the classic ingredients come together: warm, moist Gulf air colliding with dry air from the Rockies along a strong jet stream. With the ENSO transition underway, storm tracks could be more volatile than usual. The same La Niña to neutral setup that is unfolding right now is historically linked to some of the most destructive severe weather outbreaks in American history. We saw this setup before the 1974 super outbreak. 149 tornadoes, 335 deaths. We saw it before the 2011 super outbreak, 367 tornadoes, 553 deaths for the year. I am not predicting a 2011 scale event. I want to be completely clear about that. What I am telling you is that the large-scale atmospheric pattern we're in right now, the ENSO transition, the persistent Gulf moisture, the active jet stream, is historically one of the more dangerous pattern types for the central U.S., and the statistics on what happens in May when April has been this active are sobering. The season is not winding down, it is evolving. And the communities that are next in line, the Mid-South this week, and then potentially back to the Southern Plains in May, deserve to understand the full context of what they're facing. This is not a section I'm going to rush through, because with 7 days of hazardous weather ahead and alarm fatigue potentially at its peak, the action items this weekend matter more than they have in any video I've made this month. For everyone in the Monday risk zone, Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, Montgomery, Jackson, Mississippi, Paducah, Evansville, and the surrounding Mid-South. You have today and Sunday to prepare. Use both days. The single most important thing you can do right now is answer this question. If a tornado warning is issued for your neighborhood at 1 a.m. on Monday night, what is going to wake you up? If the answer is uncertain, download a weather app that rings like a phone call when warnings are issued for your specific GPS location. Tonight. Not Sunday, tonight. Second, know your shelter before it's dark on Monday. The lowest interior room, away from windows, on the ground floor or below. If you live in a mobile home or manufactured housing anywhere in the risk corridor, find a solid structure shelter and know how to get there in the dark. Practice the route if you need to. The risk of death in a mobile home from a tornado is 15 to 20 times higher than in a permanent structure. That number does not change because the tornado is smaller. It does not change because the warning comes at night. It is always, in every severe weather situation, the most urgent safety fact for mobile home residents. For everyone in Kansas, Oklahoma, and the Southern Plains dealing with today's enhanced risk. Your dangerous window is this afternoon and evening. Have your shelter identified before the storms develop. Baseball-sized hail events happen fast. Do not be driving when they arrive. Get your car under cover before the afternoon if you can. For farmers, gardeners, and outdoor agricultural operations across the Ohio Valley and Northeast, the freeze threat arriving Thursday through Sunday, April 30th through May 3rd, is confirmed by the Climate Prediction Center with a potential for 10 to 20 degrees below normal. If you have early plantings in the ground, if you have orchards that have bloomed weeks ahead of schedule, if you have any cold-sensitive crops, develop your frost protection plan this weekend. The window to act is now, while you have days to prepare, not Wednesday night when the temperatures start to fall. For everyone, everywhere. Stay connected this week, more than you normally would. Check the forecast each morning before you leave the house. Know what the SPC outlook looks like for your area. Have multiple alert methods active on your phone. And if you see a warning issued for your county, do not wait to see the storm. Move to shelter immediately. Every second of warning lead time is a gift that the science and technology of modern meteorology has worked decades to give you. Use it. Here is where we stand, Saturday, April 25th, 2026. An EF4 tornado with 175 mph winds just tore through Enid, Oklahoma, 2 nights ago. Today, an enhanced risk for severe weather continues across the southern plains and lower Mississippi Valley. Tomorrow, another round loads up across the same region. And on Monday, the day that has a 62. 1% machine learning severe probability signal and language from professional forecasters calling it a screaming classic tornado outbreak. The storm track shifts into Dixie Alley, targeting Memphis, Nashville, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, and the entire Mid-South corridor with a significant EF2 or stronger tornado threat on a Monday night. Behind Monday, the front stalls and reloads, bringing repeated rain and flash flooding risk to the southeast through midweek. And then, just as that chapter closes, a hard freeze threatens the central and eastern U.S. through the first days of May, with temperatures running 10 to 20 degrees below normal. Multiple distinct severe weather events, not a single episode, but a repeating pattern, are expected through the coming week. All significant severe hazards are possible: tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail with each round. Dixie Alley communities at elevated risk, given the region's unusually low activity totals so far this year. Nighttime tornado risk should be anticipated across the Deep South. I know you're tired of hearing this. I know the words severe weather have been in your ears every day this month, and that the alarm has been ringing so long it's starting to feel like background noise. But please, one more time, don't let your guard down this week, because the atmosphere is not tired. It does not experience alarm fatigue. It does not know how many weeks in a row it's been active. It just keeps doing what the physics and thermodynamics tell it to do. And right now, what it's being told to do is produce another week of significant, dangerous, potentially deadly severe weather across a corridor that is about to experience it for the first time this season. Make your plan, check your alerts, know your shelter, and stay connected this week. I'll see you in the next update.